Hello, and thank you for joining us for this second edition of Reporter's Notebook. Today is a little different, though. Instead of having a reporter here in the studio, we have one of our producers. Her name is Lauren Scott. She just joined WNCT a month or so ago, so she's pretty new. She just graduated from college, so me and her are pretty much the same age. So we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to go behind the scenes of one of our producers. All right, so I got Lauren here with me. Hi, Lauren. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for joining me for this. I know she's super busy. She does all the behind-the-scenes stuff and makes the show run. So, Lauren, talk to me a little bit about, your background. Like, where'd you go to school? What was your major? What are some of the things that you're interested in?
So, growing up, I always loved to write, and it sounds weird, but I love TV. I mean, every kid loved TV, but I loved the news in specific. I thought it was so fascinating. So when I grew up, I knew I always wanted to be a journalist, and at first I always wanted to report. But then once I got to school, Michigan State University, got into the J school there, they had some producing classes, and I fell in love with it, and I just loved how all the behind the scenes worked, and I loved being able to basically create the show and have my own input on it. So that's kind of my little background. But yeah, I was in J school there, and I was a producer for our student newscast for 3 years. And I loved it, and it was so fun.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And so you graduated in May of this year, correct? So
yes.
What brought you down here to North Carolina? You were up in Michigan. What brought you down here to Greenville?
Yeah, I get that question a lot because a lot of people are so confused of why I decided to move down here. It's a 12-hour drive from my hometown. Yeah, it's pretty far. But I grew up in the Midwest most of my life, but I was born on the West Coast in California. So I've always wanted to expand myself to different parts of the country, and I've always had this need to move to the South. Some people don't call North Carolina the South, but I do.
Oh, I think it is.
But yeah, and then when it came to applying to jobs, I kind of just narrowed down the states I wanted to move to, and North Carolina was one of them, and this opportunity came up, and I loved Bernie, who I was interviewing with, and he just made me feel so comfortable and welcomed and gave me so much insight on everyone here, and I just felt like I would fit in great, even though I didn't know anyone at the time. And because of COVID, I didn't have the chance to, come down here and see the station for myself and find an apartment and see the city. So that was kind of hard, but I'm happy so far, and I love it. So
yeah, I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you came down here to Greenville, North Carolina. I love it here. Obviously, I went to ECU, so I've been here for 5 years now. I'm not leaving, obviously. But I'm so glad to have you here. I love this little town of Greenville, so I'm glad you're getting to experience it. And Southern hospitality is real. That's why,
it really is.
That's why I came down here in the first place, because it is real. Those of you who have never been to the North, Southern hospitality is real.
Yeah, they can get sassy up there.
I know. But so talk to us a little bit about, for those people who don't know what being a producer is like day to day. What do you do on your day-to-day work schedule? How do you put together the show, but kind of what goes into that?
So like I said before, it's basically all behind the scenes. So what I do when I first come in the morning is I tune into the morning meeting, which is what our executive producer and our news director have with the reporters. So that way I can kind of have a knowledge of what our reporters are going out and doing. But for my show in specific, as of right now, I'm producing our 5:30 newscast. So that is mostly national news, which I do find really fun. So what I get to do is I get to go through CBS NewsPath and CNN News Source, which is just basically websites where we can get a lot of our national news stories, and see what reporters around the country are doing, what is going around in the country. So that's really fun because as much as I love local things, it's fun to see what different states are doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But so I go through and I stack the newscast. So we have what we call A block, B block, C block. A block is just, top stories. B block can be more local things. And then C block is more kind of like feel good, happy things, at least what I try and do. I really like to end my newscasts on a happy note, because sometimes news can be really serious, and I like
Yeah.
people to leave the show feeling like uplifted and
On a
positive.
good note. I love
Yeah.
that. That's so awesome.
Yeah, so then throughout the day, we just go through and we write. There's a lot of writing with producing, and that's something I am working on as a new producer myself. Writing for news is very different than writing for, a newspaper or a magazine or everything. So that's something that I'm getting used to and I'm working on among everything in the news business. So, but yeah, I mean, I could go on and on forever about what
That's so
we do
cool.
every day, but every day is completely different. So,
Right, it is.
yeah.
And the same with us. I
Mhm.
mean, every day is totally different. I used to
Yeah.
say to people like who asked me why I wanted to do the news, I was like, it's kind of like I feel like a little kid going on a field trip, like with
Yeah.
school every day.
It's
like
fun
every day.
because you never know
Yeah.
what you're gonna walk into every morning or every
Exactly.
night, and like things can change at the drop of a hat. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
You're talking with new people, meeting new people, hearing
Mhm.
new information every day, seeing new footage every day. It's something
Mhm.
totally different, and you're kind of like growing your mind every
Exactly.
day.
And
with
like I
things.
love to learn and I love to grow, so like being able to learn new things every day is, I feel very lucky to have a job that I can do that,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so this is your first, because you graduated in May, this
Mhm.
is your first producing job.
Yep.
So I assume like most of us have like 2-year contracts, so you'll probably be here for 2 years as well, correct?
Mhm. Yep.
Awesome. So do you want to continue doing producing? Is that something you definitely want to continue as your career?
As of right now, yeah. I mean, like like we were just talking about, every day is different, so I really have no clue what I'll be doing, 2 years down the line, let alone tomorrow. But yeah, I would love to keep on producing. I love it so far, and that would be amazing if I could keep doing that. But there are so many opportunities in this world that you really never know. But I love it so far, and I think it would be so cool to work my way up in the news world and be a big time producer one day.
That's so cool. I think you could do it. You're doing
Thank
such a great job
you.
here. It's so cool.
Thank
And
you.
one of the other cool things that you guys get to do, which I'm jealous of, which I think is super cool, is you guys actually get to go sit in the producer's room, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, the booth is
The
what we
booth.
call it.
Yeah. So you guys get to literally physically run the shows. You guys have
Mhm.
this whole panel of like crazy
Yep.
buttons and gadgets
Mhm.
and all this stuff, and you guys literally run the show
Yeah.
from this room and like
Mhm.
talk to the anchors and the reporters who are live, and it is so
Mhm.
cool. Like I sat in there a couple times when I was interning, and I just thought it
Mhm.
was the coolest thing
It's
ever.
so cool, but I'm not gonna lie, when I first walked in there on my first day, I was so overwhelmed because, in school we had something like that, but definitely not to this extreme. So when I first walked in there, I was like, what is this? It's like, it was a little crazy, but it's not as overwhelming as everyone thinks. It's really not hard at all. But yeah, it's fun. It's just the producers and the director in there. And yeah, we get to talk to the anchors and cue them and cue you guys when you guys are on your live shots. So it's fun to really see it like in action in the moment, because we spend all day putting it together, but then once we get on the show, it's like cool to see what you did like all in one thing.
Definitely. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're having such a great time here.
I am
We're really
too.
happy to have you. You're doing an awesome
Thank you.
job
I
with your work.
appreciate it.
You're welcome. And hopefully, I hope someone sees this so that is maybe not heard about what a producer does before, or maybe a kid who is interested in becoming a producer wants to work in news and they've never heard this aspect of it. So hopefully, you're able to give people some insight into that, that really cool background, that really cool behind the scenes of what you guys do every day. Because what you guys do really makes the show.
There's more to news than just reporting and anchoring, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that. So I would love to, if any of you guys watching this wants to reach out to me and wants more information about like what I do day to day or how I got to this point, I'm always an open book and willing to help anyone. So hit me up.
Awesome. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for taking this time out of your day to sit down with me. I'm so glad we got to have a producer on here and talk about the behind the scenes of that, because it is such an important part of what we do here every single day. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lauren. And guys, thank you for joining us for this edition of Reporter's Notebook.